In this video, we'll discuss a few recommended maintenance procedures to perform to keep your mower running safely and efficiently. To do this, follow the specific procedures and maintenance schedule documented in the mower's operation and maintenance manual. This procedure is shown on a ZT7000. Your machine may look different, but the procedure is similar. To carefully remove, replace and/or check the spark plugs. First, disconnect the wires from the spark plugs. Then carefully loosen and remove each plug, and inspect each to ensure they're in good operating condition. If a plug is in bad condition, it's best to replace it with a new plug to get the best results. And when installing a spark plug, set the plug gap as specified in the engine manual. In regard to the machine's engine, the mower's engine oil and filter should be changed every 100 hours of operation, or annually, whichever comes first. To change the engine oil and filter, the engine should be warmed up before draining the oil. Then remove the drain hose from the engine clip, and route the hose so it's supported in a straight, downward position. If the hose is laying flat or has a bend in it, some of the old oil will stay in the engine, and the engine will not drain completely. Next, remove the rubber cap from the tip of the hose and turn the drain valve to allow oil to drain from the engine. Please note that you should not remove the yellow valve completely. In doing so, this may allow the orange plug inside the hose to flow out with the oil. When the oil stops flowing, tighten and clean the drain valve. Then, install the rubber cap on the tip. Now remove the oil filter from the engine and ensure the filter gasket comes off with the filter. Next, on the new filter, add a thin layer of clean oil to the filter gasket and install the filter on the filter housing. Then add the recommended amount of oil to the engine. See the engine manufacturer's manual for specifications. Once you've finished adding oil, check the engine's dipstick to confirm the oil level is within the recommended range, and add oil as needed to be within the specifications. Please note that the oil level is checked with the cap not screwed on. Then install the drain hose back on the engine clip. And after each procedure, make sure to clean up the area and wipe up any spills. The mowers also have an inline fuel filter located on the fuel supply line. Inspect the fuel filter at every oil change to ensure it's clean and unobstructed. Replace the filter if dirty. If the fuel filter needs to be replaced, close the fuel tank valve and start the mower's engine. Let it run until the engine turns off. This will allow the mower to burn off excess fuel in the fuel line. Then place a container or absorbent towel under the fuel filter to capture any excess fuel that may drip when the fuel filter is replaced. Loosen the hose clamps and disconnect the fuel lines from both ends of the filter. And notice the position of the arrow on the fuel filter. This indicates the direction of fuel flow. Make sure the new filter is installed in this orientation. Then install the new fuel filter, connecting the fuel hoses to each end of the filter. Once each hose has been secured, install the hose clamps and secure each clamp. Then clean up any residual fuel and debris from around the fuel filter. Recycle or dispose of used fluid or filters in an environmentally safe manner. Now start the mower to cycle the fuel and confirm there are no leaks. It's It's also important to make sure the air intake screen, air cleaner element, and cooling fins are kept clean, and are replaced per the recommended maintenance schedule to keep the engine operating efficiently. And in addition to this, you should also blow debris out of the cleanout ports, if equipped. Check these areas daily to make sure they're clear of debris. This will ensure the engine receives a proper amount of air for cooling. For more information on these processes, see your machine's engine manufacturer's manual for details. Also, if you notice your machine running unevenly, showing a lack of power, or black exhaust coming from the muffler, this could indicate a dirty air cleaner. To replace the air cleaner filter elements, remove the end cover and pull the primary element from the housing. Then pull the secondary element from the housing. Once the filters have been removed, wipe the inside of the filter housing with a clean, damp, lint-free rag to remove any excess dirt or debris. Do not use compressed air. Using compressed air could force debris back into the engine, causing damage. Then install the new filters following the same procedure in the reverse order. Once the filters have been installed, install the end cover and make sure it's securely fastened. Also, if your machine is equipped with a breather port, ensure its position pointing down and towards the front of the machine when installing the end cap. There are also two types of transaxles, with different styles of expansion tanks used on the zero-turn mowers, depending on the model. This includes the transaxles that use the IET, or internal expansion tank, which means the fluid expansion tank is mounted inside the transaxle housing. The other style is a transaxle utilizing external expansion tanks, located outside the transaxle housing, mounted below the seat. Now each mower utilizes two transaxles, one on each side of the mower, connected directly to each drive wheel. To access the transaxle and external expansion tanks, raise the seat. When checking the fluid level, check the levels when the machine is cold. Inspect the transaxle's fluid levels at each oil change to ensure they have the proper amount of fluid for lubrication. Please note, the transaxles do not consume fluid, so if the fluid level is low in external expansion tanks, check for signs of a leak, such as dirt attracted to oil. If fluid needs to be topped off or needs to be added, fill each tank to the full cold line using only the recommended motor oil, and do not overfill. The extra space in the tank is for expansion of the fluid as it warms up. Fluid levels in the IET transaxles cannot be readily checked, so unless you see signs of a leak, the transaxle fluid level does not need to be checked. Also, be mindful not to get oil on the belt during the process, and examine the belt for cracking, hardness, or shiny appearances that indicates the belt needs to be changed. If the mowers utilize an external expansion tank and the transaxle's oil and filter needs to be changed. First, park the machine on a level surface. Stop the machine and remove the keys. Next, place a pan under the location of the oil filter at the rear of the transaxle to capture any excess oil that drains. Now, carefully remove the oil filter cover from the transaxle to drain the oil. Once the oil is finished draining, remove the oil filter element from the transaxle housing and discard. Then remove the O-ring from the cover and discard. Install a new O-ring on the filter cover and add a thin layer of clean oil to the O-ring. Then install the filter on the transaxle housing and install the filter cover on the machine. Then fill the transaxle through the expansion tank with the recommended motor oil. Please note that filling the transaxle will be easier if the vent plug next to the expansion tank port is removed. To access the vent plug, remove the fan cover on each side of the machine. Then fill the tank until the oil level reaches the vent plug. Now install the vent plug to prevent oil from seeping out, and continue filling to the full cold mark on the expansion tank. And when finished, wipe up any oil that spilled or came out of the vent plug. Spilled oil will attract dirt and debris and make it hard to tell if there's a leak, as well as reduce transaxle cooling. To replace the Transaxle's oil and filter on Transaxles with internal expansion tanks. It's important to understand that as the Transaxles are used, the fluid inside the Transaxle heats up and expands, causing fluid to flow into the expansion tank. Therefore, when checking and replacing the Transaxle fluid, it's important to allow the fluid to cool to less than 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 37.8 degrees Celsius to ensure the system does not overfill or overexpand, and to allow the internal expansion tank to completely drain. If the Transaxle is drained while the fluid is hot, the tank will not drain completely, leaving used oil in the expansion tank. This can cause problems with the Transaxle's performance, as well as increase the potential of seal damage due to expansion, which will not be covered by warranty. To begin, remove the filter guard screws and carefully remove the filter guard. Then ensure a drain pan has been placed under the Transaxle filter to capture any excess fluid. Now remove the oil filter from the Transaxle housing and let the Transaxle drain. Then loosen the fill port plug to allow the tank to drain easier. Once the filter has been removed, thoroughly clean the filter housing with a lint-free rag, removing any excess oil and debris. To install a new filter, first apply a thin layer of clean oil on the filter gasket. Then install the filter on the filter housing and hand tighten until the gasket contacts the housing surface. Then tighten an additional 3/4 of a turn. Now install the filter guard and mounting screws. Next, fill the Transaxle with the recommended Transaxle fluid. To do this, remove the fill port plug and the top port plug. Then, using the top port, fill the tank until fluid runs out of the top port, and the fluid level reaches the top of the fill port. Install the top port plug. An alternative way to do this is to use a bottle with a stem, similar to a gear lube bottle, but make sure the bottle is clean before using. Fill the bottle with the recommended Transaxle fluid. Then attach a separate hose, one end on the stem of the bottle and the other end in the top port of the Transaxle. Then squeeze the bottle to fill the Transaxle until it's full. When fluid runs out of the top port and the fluid level reaches the top of the fill port, the Transaxle is full. Once the Transaxle is full, install the top port plug and the fill port plug. Then torque to the recommended specs. And when finished, wipe up any oil that spilled or came out of the vent plug. Spilled oil will attract dirt and debris and make it hard to tell if there's a leak, as well as reduce Transaxle cooling. Next, in all models of zero-turn mowers, you'll need to purge the Transaxles to remove air from the system. This process should be performed anytime the Transaxles are opened. To purge the Transaxles, first, make sure the oil level in the expansion tank is at the recommended level. Now, open the bypass valves. These valves have two positions, tow position and drive position. You'll want to move the valve into the tow position. Also know that the mowers use different tow valve designs based on the mower model, but the concept of operation is similar. Now carefully raise the drive wheel off the ground so the wheel can move freely. Next, start the engine and slowly move the steering lever for the lifted wheel, forward and in reverse 5 to 6 times. As the wheel rotates, air in the system will be released and the oil level will drop in the corresponding tank. Once you've completed that process, stop the engine and add more oil to the tank, bringing the oil level back up to the recommended level if needed. Now close the bypass valve. Continue to repeat this process until the oil level no longer drops and is maintained at the recommended level. Now, if you're performing this process on an internal expansion tank transaxle, the process is similar, but you will need to open the fill and top ports again to add oil to maintain the correct level. And keep in mind, this procedure needs to be performed on both transaxles. Repeat the procedure on the other transaxle. Then carefully lower the machine to the ground. When maintaining the machine per the maintenance chart specifications, make sure to check the mower's operator presence interlock system daily. To do this, first ensure the area is free of bystanders. The operator must also be in the seat to operate any function. The operator presence interlock system has been designed so the mower will only start if the parking brake is engaged, the PTO or mower blades off, and the steering levers must be moved outward in the neutral lock position. This system is designed to protect the operator, so it's important the system works correctly. Test each aspect of the start procedure independently, while trying to start the machine to see if the engine will start, following the instructions documented in the Operation and Maintenance Manual. For the engine to start, the park brake must be engaged or in the on position. Confirm the PTO switch or mower blades are off and start the engine. Then check the steering levers. The mower should not start if either or both of the steering levers are moved out of the neutral lock position. Place the steering levers in the neutral lock position and start the engine. To perform the run operation check, start the engine and run at half throttle. Then perform the inspection with the operator raised off the seat. While out of the seat, disengage the parking brake lever, moving it into the off position. This should cause the engine to shut down a half second after disengaging. Now start the machine again and turn the PTO switch or mower blades on. For each check, the engine should shut down a half second after the action is performed. Finally, start the engine again and move each steering lever out of neutral separately. The engine should shut down after each lever is moved. If any one of these operator presence interlock features fails and the engine starts when they're disengaged, repair the mower before use. With regards to the machine's tires, it's very important each set of tires maintains the proper air pressure. Improper tire inflation can cause rapid tire wear and poor traction, and uneven inflation can cause uneven cutting. Keep in mind, the rear wheels should be inflated at 12 psi or 0.82 bar, and the pneumatic tire pressure for the front wheels is 15 psi or 1.03 bar. But if more tire pressure is needed to support the tire bead, the pneumatic tires can be inflated to 20 to 30 psi or 1.38 to 2.06 bar. It's also good to note that some models are equipped with no flat casters that do not require air. Therefore, these wheels will not have valve stems to check or add air. Finally, the mowers have been designed with a reduced number of lubrication points for ease of use and longevity. But that being said, they still have a few lubrication points that need to be greased manually. And when greasing lubrication points, make sure to wipe off any dirt and debris from the grease fittings before applying grease. These points need to be greased following the recommended maintenance schedule in the machine's operation and maintenance manual. The lubrication points include the deck lift rock shaft, which has one grease point under the seat access. The deck lift pivots have 4 grease points located on the side of the frame. The idler pivot has 1 grease point under the footplate. And the caster wheel pivots have 2 grease points, 1 on each wheel. If you have any questions regarding the Bobcat product lineup, contact your authorized Bobcat dealer for further assistance.